Hi there, YouTubers. Welcome back to P.E.Eyes Uncovered. My name is Jim Shephard. I am a former private investigator in the Toronto area, and I am the author of P.E.Eyes, a Ben and Vern detective novel series. So what do you say we take a closer look at writing? Today, I thought we would talk a little bit more about plot development. So basically, there are two methods that a writer can employ when creating a work of fiction. One is called structured writing, whereby an author will prepare an outline prior to what he's about to write, and he can follow that outline. For example, he'll know when to insert a character, where to have a particular scene, what's happening when this house is on fire, that sort of thing. So he knows he can follow that to a T, and his writing is created that way. The other one is called Freeflow Writing, and that's the one that I really enjoy the most because anything can happen at any time. Now, for example, I'll start my novels with something, simple. Like, for example, the boys are out fishing on the Skyla 2. Ben and Vern are sitting there with their legs over the side, fishing rods in their hand, and then something's going to happen. It could be a storm brewing overhead. It could be a seagull flying by and dropping a load on Ben's head. It could be Vern casting his line out and catching Cassie's bonnet in the process. There's my opening. Okay, now I'll pick one of those three, and the story will develop from there. And when that happens, then I just let the characters take over, and what will be will be. Many writers know exactly what it is they're going to write about. They have a beginning, a middle, and an ending in mind before they start with the hard work of doing the actual writing. I don't do that. I can't do that because my mind wanders so much. It's full of ideas that change constantly. My characters take on the life of their own, and when I allow them to do that, they go off on tangents that when I go back and read chapters that I've written, they amaze me, they humor me, they startle me. I never know what's going to happen, and that's one of the reasons why I love writing so much, because I just don't know what I'm going to put down on paper. Now, I'm going to give you a word. It's called Perkinsing. You've probably never, well, I know you've never heard of that word because I coined it myself. And what is Perkinsing, you asked? Well, I'll get into that in a second. Way back, I'm not sure if it was my first or second novel, there was a character in there whose name was Perkins. And one of the things this guy used to do was eavesdrop. Now, eavesdropping is not, it's not a very good thing to do at times, but sometimes it can be a lifesaver. I like to consider it as wiretapping without the use of electronics. You're using your own ear. Now, this is how it works. Years ago, my wife and I discovered when we used to go, we lived in Montreal for a while, we used to go out to nightclubs occasionally. We always picked a booth in a good restaurant, a good nightclub, none of these sleazy things. And we sit near the back where it's not quite private, but semi-private. And we'd sit there enjoying our drink or our meal or whatever it was that we were there for, and enjoying conversations between each other. And it was only a matter of time before another couple would come in and sit down at the booth behind us, or beside us, or wherever it is, and they break into their own conversations, thinking that they're being very private about what they're talking about. Well, if you cock an ear and listen to what's going on back there, trust me, you will be amazed. Yeah, it's a little bit unethical. You're kind of invading somebody's privacy, but I mean, if they're foolish enough to talk about it, then I'm foolish enough to pick up on it. Now, my Perkins character, he did a lot of that. He was in a lot of trouble at a resort in Banff, and he was sitting there overhearing a conversation between some people that were hell-bent on doing him some harm, and they weren't aware that he was sitting there and could hear this conversation. Inevitably, it got him out of trouble, and I'm not going to tell you too much more about the story because I want you to read the book itself. I think you'll enjoy it. Well, I know you'll enjoy it because I enjoyed it and I wrote it. And remember, you can pick up a lot of information by being quiet and just listening. And what you do with that information, you know, it's up to you. But when you're a novel writer, you can use the information that you got, give it to your characters, 1, 2, 3 of them, doesn't matter who it is, and develop the plot line along there. I mean, you might only use 2 or 3 words that you've heard, but you get the gist of the story from what they're saying, and you can run with that, turn it into your own story. You let your mind do the writing for you. As I stated earlier, a lot of writers have their plots pre-written in their minds, and they feel it's necessary to follow that to keep within the story. Well, I don't do that. I can't do that. Like I said, my mind wanders all over the place, and that's why my poor copy editor sometimes she says to me, Jim, for God's sakes, we've got to change this. We've got to do this. We've got to do that. And thank God she's as good as she is. And if anybody wants to know who this copy editor I have is, just drop me a line, and I'd be more than happy to pass her name on to you. So remember the term Perkinsing. You'll find it in my novels, and feel free to use it if you want. If you've enjoyed the information I've given you today, feel free to hit like, thumbs up. Remember, it's always thumbs up. Follow, of course, and share. And also, if there are any topics you want me to cover, or if you want to know a little bit more about my investigative work, feel free to ask your question in the comments section.